Welcome back, students. This is our second part of third chapter Ruling the Countryside, Class 8 History. Now, as we have discussed in the previous video about different types of revenue collection systems that Britishers came up with. Here we are going to discuss about the indigo cultivation. By the 18th century, company was trying its best to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo, and mostly in the part of Bengal and Bihar. British persuaded or forced cultivators to produce other crops which were beneficial for them, beneficial for their trade, like they persuaded for jute in Bengal, sugarcane and United Province means in Uttar Pradesh area, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras, and wheat in Punjab. So these were the places where Britishers tried to persuade and force the cultivators to grow different crops. Now, color history. There one thing common in the two prints. One is Kalamkari print, which is very much famous in Andhra Pradesh, and one is from Britain, that is Moorish cotton print, and both were dyed with the help of a rich blue color known as indigo. Now, demand for Indian indigo. Little amount of indigo reached European market and was very high price. The climate of Europe is not favorable for growing indigo, so all the European countries used to import indigo from different parts of the world. They depend on another plant called wood, WOAD, wood. Okay, why the Britishers turned towards the India for Indian indigo? Cloth dyers preferred indigo as a dye because it produces a rich blue color, whereas the dye from wood was pale and dull. So it does not produce that much amount of rich blue color which indigo used to produce. Due to the industrialization, the demand of indigo dramatically increased as the cotton production expanded, and as the clothes production expanded, they needed indigo dye for coloring the clothes. Now, Britain turned to India. Last decade of 18th century, indigo cultivation dominated the world market. The demand of indigo continuously rising. Now, if we talk about the dates, then in 1788, only 30% of the indigo imported into Britain from India, and the rise of this demand of indigo was dramatical. Like in 1810, 95% of the total indigo which was imported into the Britain was from India. So you can see here the drastic change in the import of indigo from India to Britain. Over the years, many company officials, because they found this indigo business full of profit, so they just left their job, their company job, and joined this indigo business. Attracted by the prospect of high profit, numerous Scotchmen and Englishmen came to India from Britain and Scotland and became planters. Now, let's discuss the methods of indigo cultivation. Basically, indigo cultivation methods, there are two methods. First is nij and second is rayoti. In what happens in nij cultivation, the planters brought the land or rented it from zamindar on lease and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. So here the planters have to buy the whole land and then after they employ hired laborers. In the second method, under this rayoti method system, the planters forced the ryots to sign the contract. The name of the contract is Satta. The contract is called as Satta for growing indigo on at least 25% of the area under his holding. So these were the two different methods of cultivation. Okay, so the problems with the niche cultivation. The first problem was the fertile land were densely populated. The land which was required by the planters for growing indigo, because indigo is a plant which can only grow on a fertile land. So the lands, that fertile lands, were densely populated. The second were the conflicts and tension with the peasants. Actually, the planters needed large areas to cultivate indigo in plantation. So they attempt to lease in the land around the indigo factory, where there is a factory, indigo factory, so that they can easily provide raw material to the factory, and that's why they evict the peasants from their area. As they were evacuated, as the peasants were removed from their lands, so the peasants generally have conflict and tensions with the planters. Peasants were busy with their rice cultivation. Actually, this indigo cultivation required a large number of hands. That means the labor. And whenever the planters required large number of laborers, the peasants were usually busy with their rice cultivation. Next problem was large amount of investment. As the land was brought by the planters, so for cultivation of land, for plowing of land, they needed bullocks and ploughs. And the investment was very high. The requirement of investment was very high, and the maintenance of this plough was a big problem. So these were the problems with the niche cultivation. So if we talk about the data about the niche and the rarity, then we can say that less than 25% of the land producing indigo was under this system or niche system. Remaining part of the cultivation of indigo was rarity system, depends upon rarity system. So indigo on the land of ryots. Ryots means the cultivators. What happens under this rayati system? The planters forced the ryots to sign a contract, an agreement which is known as satta. And according to this contract, the planters gave some money to the cultivators at very low interest to produce more and more indigo. And according to this contract, the cultivators, the ryots, have to grow indigo at least on the 25% of their area under holding. That means if there is total 100 acres of land, then on 25 acre of land, ryots have to grow indigo. In this system, seeds and drill is provided by the planters of the indigo, and the cultivators prepared the soil, showed the seeds, and looked after the crop. So the problems that were occurred in this system was totally pacified with this system. In this system, the planters don't have to invest much. In this system, planters don't need to evacuate peasants from their own land. So in a very small amount of money, the planters were able to grow more and more indigo.